Today, I'm delighted to say that we have Martin Gettings, Director of Sustainability, Canary Wharf Group. Morning, Martin.
Good morning, Paul. It's great to be here.
Thank you very much. It's a very nice sunny day. Martin is a chartered environmentalist and fellow of the Institute of Environmental Management and Assessment. His background in construction engineering and project management came before almost 2 decades of sector environmental practice and sustainability leadership. He's an elected board member of the Supply Chain Sustainability School, where he chairs their Climate Action Working Group, and is also in many leading real estate initiatives, including Better Building Partnership and the UK Green Building Council. On a voluntary basis, Martin participates in the Worshipful Company of Constructors Diversity and Inclusion and Scholarship Committees, giving time to guide and mentor sustainability scholars. Thank you for joining us on our virtual couch, Martin. We're hoping at some point we'll do these interviews on an actual couch, but we'll see how this goes. Your bio is very impressive. And in fact, I personally know how passionate you are about environmental sustainability in general. So I thought I would start by asking you, where did your passion for the area begin?
I can tell you exactly when it happened. It was in around about 1996 when the Newbury bypass protests were ongoing. At the time, I was working on a construction site up in the northeast of England. My accent gives away where I'm from, and I wanted to do something about it. I felt that at the time it was all about environmental protection, and it was the same argument that we're hearing today with high speed too. You know, ancient woodlands were being cut down and made way for transport infrastructure. Right. And you'll all recall the photographs of Swampy and the people in the up in the trees and down in the tunnels. And I was really inspired by that. Here were young people who were prepared to do something about a situation that was unacceptable to them. Okay. And quite frankly, I was a bit ashamed of the sector that I was in. I represented the construction sector. I was a young site engineer at the time. Yeah. And I was that night I was going home. I was packing my bags and I was going to go down to Newbury. I was going to join them. Wow. And I stopped and thought about it for a few minutes. I thought, hang on a minute, you've got a mortgage to pay. You've got you've got a baby on the way. Well, I didn't, but my wife did. And I thought, well, I've got to do something about this. What could I do? So I basically, at the time, I stuck my hand up to volunteer to be the environmental representative for the project that I was on. Wow. At the time, it was just emerging. 14,001 was just starting to become a management system in the company, and it manifested by being a part of the induction. And the site manager needed somebody to do the environmental bit of the health and safety induction, and I volunteered to do that. And that's where I started. I got the little card that said all about avoiding spills and all that, and I started looking into it and researching into it. And I ran it along with my day job for many years. I come from an operational background, from engineering, project management, and I did the environmental piece sort of side by side with my day job. But what I realized like quite recently is that I'd aligned my passion with what I could do as a vocation. Yeah. And actually all the things that you need to do sustainability and environmental management really well. I think you've got to be a good communicator. You've got to be passionate. You've got to enjoy it. And actually nowadays you can be paid for it. So I actually realized that there's a concept called ikigai. It's a Japanese concept. I probably pronounced it wrong, but it's all about alignment. And for me, that's what sustainability is. It's about alignment. And that's how I got into it. And that's how I see it now.
Did any figures inspire you at the time when you were in your early days? Did anyone you see kind of give you that extra motivation to push forward to where you are right now?
I think a lot of the people who I worked with at the time were very, very supportive of me wanting to do this. I mean, I don't want to say Swampy was my original sort of inspiration, but yeah. it was the fact that here were people taking action, right? And for me, it's always been about taking action. It's not so much about being an activist. There's plenty of really good activists in the world. Yeah. What we are in construction, we're all project managers in one form or another. Mm-hmm. So we're all about doing things. So I think I was inspired by my colleagues and my peers who supported what I wanted to do, but also I was quite driven driven myself. But I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people that you can draw inspiration from now. You know, David Attenborough is a great public figure that a lot of people draw inspiration from today.
It's funny because you mentioned support, and I think from supporting your peers was very important. And I think I've noticed, obviously, nowadays there's more and more support from not just your peers. You're talking about heads of companies and management. And I was thinking, because you mentioned as well, David Attenborough. I thought to push let's say the movement of to be a bit more to be much more environmentally sustainable, you have to be a disruptor. But I think in some ways, because we have a bit more support now from everyone, I think it's less about breaking the barriers, because I think the barriers already been broken. Is that your opinion? So would you say it's a bit easier than it was before in those days when you were young and trying to break into that sort of area? Do you think it's a bit easier to get people on board?
I think you'd be pushing on an open door. Okay. Now. I think 20 or 30 years ago, this couldn't have been my day job, because there wasn't enough need for it. I was doing something else, so I was aligning with what I was doing previously. And one of the things I say to people today, you can be a full-time sustainability practitioner, but you can also align it with what you're passionate about. You know, if you're really into finance, or if you're really into project management, you can follow that, but you can still do sustainability as well. You can weave sustainability into what your vocation is, and I think that you will be supported in that. I think that more and more businesses don't see this as an extra and as an added thing that we should be doing, but actually it should be being something that's being embraced and embedded right throughout the business. And people like me have been the sort of catalysts to make that happen. But more and more people, different parts of the business, are now getting involved, which is absolutely brilliant, and I absolutely welcome that.
So you noticed in your day-to-day working life, you noticed that there's actual positive change rather than just facade, and I'm talking about in terms of behaviors and decision making. Is that correct? You can see it now. There's an actual one.
Yeah, it's the whole behaviors thing is really, really interesting. Okay. Where this might have been seen as a bit of a burden, a number of years ago, it's now been seen as a competitive advantage, and I think that's brilliant. That's something that we can really play with. We can really leverage that, and not just tick boxes, but actually go beyond the boxes and differentiate and get better, and use this as a factor of competition. I think in terms of behaviors, what I would say is if you are a sustainability practitioner, or if you want to do ESG and that's that sort of thing, what you don't want to be doing right now is holding a placard up and banging on the door saying we want to be listened to, because what's going to happen straight away, that door's going to open and you say, come on, then tell us what are we got to do. What we have to be now are providers of solutions. Of course. We've moved from activists and we're now activators. Yeah. We've now got to be the people who are bringing answers to some of these challenges, because the door is opening and we are being welcomed in, and we're having to find new skills now. I mean, I've been for a long time, I've been a negotiator, but now I'm going back to being a project manager. I started my life as a project manager. I then went into the environmental piece where it was about getting people to think differently, and now I feel like I'm going back to providing solutions and providing the answers to a lot of these challenges.
I like that. I love that movement to competitiveness. I think it's inspiring innovation right now. We're at that stage where if you people are thinking, oh, this could be a moneymaker, basically. And I'm sorry to put it quite crude, but that's where we want to be, because people are, not in a cynical way, but we're motivated by money. A lot of us are motivated by money, and some more extent than others. But in some ways, it's a good thing, and I like that comment about competitiveness. And I think, in fact, it gets the juices flowing, I think, as well, just in the construction industry. And I'm actually personally looking forward to seeing the innovations that are going to come in the next 10, 20 years, in fact. And so, okay, well, as I've got to know you, I've realized we need more people like you in the industry. I know this. And if you, let's say, for example, the construction industry was an autocracy and you were the person in charge right now, what would you be encouraging, implementing and changing to push us towards our net zero goals, targets?
Okay, so I've got three points I'd like to sort of suggest with this. Firstly, and you've just said it, right? You've just highlighted the problem. You've just said, what would you do to push this towards net zero? We've really got to change the language, right? Yeah. This is not about push, this is about pull. We've got to make this, we've got to see this as a huge opportunity, not a catastrophe. You know, you've got all of these organizations declaring climate emergencies, and that's great, you know, to raise awareness. But what next? Now, what we do in the construction sector, what we do best is provide solutions. We're innovators, we're creators, we're builders. We make things. We thrive on the positive. So I think one of our strengths is just that, and we can use that mindset that we've got of driving solutions forward. We can use that to tackle this, zero carbon challenge. So I think change the language, change the mindset, change the outcome. So that's the first thing, the way we approach it. And I think it plays to our strengths, because I think that's what we do best. We're solution providers. Yeah. I think the next thing that we need to do is collaborate as a single team. Yeah. Stop seeing ourselves in silos. Stop seeing ourselves as the constructor or the contractor. We've got to see ourselves as the catalyst that brings this all together. We're one built environment. All of us live, work, and exist in the built environment in one form or another. And as constructors, we sit at the heart of that. But one of the things that being at Canary Wharf has taught me, it's not just about the project, it's about that whole ecosystem. And I think we've got to see that built environment as an ecosystem, and we've got to understand where we are in that. So the supply chain, the occupier, the community come together as one and see this as our problem that we've got to tackle. The last thing I would say is, coming out of COVID, coming out of the pandemic, use this time now as an opportunity to leverage where we want to get ourselves to be. So we've all heard the term build back better. Politicians, you throw it around like a soundbite, but if you really look at build back better and what it means, and if I would suggest that you look at the IEMA definition of build back better, that's my professional institution, Institute of Environmental Management and Assessment. They have actually adopted build back better as their mission statement. And they've actually defined what build back better means. It isn't just a soundbite, it's a process that you can go through. If you take that, you can interpret that, their process, into any sector. And obviously I've taken a look at build back better, and I've interpreted it into what we do in the built environment. And it's absolutely a blueprint for what we need to do, not just to hit zero carbon, but to level up, to be more inclusive, to think about sustainable finance, all of the things that we need to bring into this to achieve this long-term. And of course, it's not just zero carbon; it's addressing all of the sustainable development goals. So I would say that's the three things that if I had any kind of autocracy, those are what I would be suggesting. Change the language, collaborate as a team, and build back better. And that's what I would say.
That's fantastic. That's pure gold. I think I like the change the language bit as well, and you know, using the pull instead of the push. I think that's brilliant. And in fact, you've changed my language, because I saw it in your face as well, because when I sent you the questions in advance, you were waiting to tell me this.
Don't tell anybody that. Make them think we're talking about it from the start.
I love it. I'm definitely going to change my language in that sense as well, and I'm going to correct other people as well. So okay, fantastic. So do you think the UK construction industry underestimates how much a challenge reaching its net zero carbon targets may be?
Again, I mean, you played into my hands. It is a big challenge, right? I don't want to downplay the scale of what we've got to do here, but again, in some areas, I think we overestimate it. I think that if we do what we do best, we take huge technical challenges in some of the projects, in the mega projects, and now the giga projects that we're seeing all around the world. We take these huge challenges, and we break them down and we address them, and we deliver these incredible developments and schemes, and new cities are being created all around the world. You know, if we can't address the sustainable development goals and the zero carbon challenge within that, we've absolutely failed. And I think sometimes that we do tend to overestimate the challenge, because we see it alongside what we're trying to do. If we bring it in and embrace it and integrate it as another delivery requirement, then we can do it. We can do it. And I really think that we should play to our strengths in the sector, and we can do this. We can do this.
Fantastic. I mean, yeah, I think that's brilliant. I think I've learned a lot in this chat, and I want to ask one final question, and it's something I don't know, it's quite an emotive topic, but have you come across any skeptics in relation to the issue of climate change in your professional and personal life? And if so, what do you say to them?
Well, we always come across skeptics. I think it's getting harder to deny this, though. I think it's getting harder to be skeptical about this, because actually you just have to look out of the window to see it happening. Many, many years ago, it was quite theoretical. The holes in the ozone layer, and Kyoto Protocol came along, Montreal Protocol came along and sorted that out. But it was distant. It wasn't seen. It wasn't felt. But actually, this is coming closer to home all the time. I mean, I used to have a presentation that showed the effects of climate change, and there were photographs from all around the world. I've been updating those photographs over the years, and actually now they're all within Zone 1. You can get drought, flood, extreme weather events, all in the southeast of England. So I kind of really don't have to say anything at all now to convince the skeptics, because it's happening. This is real, and it's happening now. And I think this, as I say, I think the whole narrative has shifted up from being an activist and trying to convince people to actually what we have to do now is provide the solutions. And I think that's what we do best.
I like what you said about it's harder to deny, but obviously deniers would always evolve as well their arguments. So obviously, yes, in fact, the arguments I've seen has moved from it's not happening to yes, it's happening, but we're covered. We don't need to do much. We don't need to change our lives. We've got everything sorted. We've got a few solar panels up. We've got this sort of thing. And it's funny because hopefully those arguments will be pushed into literally there's nowhere to go now. But and I'm sure it's getting to a more of a minority amount of people instead of
yeah.
And hopefully that will happen. So yeah, okay. Well, I really enjoyed that conversation, and it's been a fascinating insight into just your thoughts. And this conversation was based on a couple of informal chats I've had with you before, and you've inspired me as well. I mean, if ever in the future I have an interview and someone asks me the same question of are there any figures that have inspired you, I straight away say Martin Gettings, but that's just my own opinion, and I hope people watching this video would want to obviously know more about you and the company as well. So thank you for your time, and continue the great work you are doing in our amazing industry, complicated but amazing. And thank you all for watching as well. And if you have any comments on this, please feel free to email me, Paul Singh, at the email address you'll see on screen right now, which is youngmembers@constructorscompany.org.uk. And so, yeah, thank you very much. And goodbye from me. And I'll let Martin say goodbye as well, and let him have the final word.
Yeah, you're very kind, Paul. Thanks very much for having us here. And yeah, I'll be delighted to speak to any of the members if I could be of any assistance. Just get in touch through the company.
Fantastic.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.